This lesson is over QAR strategies, a reading strategy that helps readers develop more in-depth questions over the readings. First, we're going to start with what is QAR, which stands for question-answer relationships. The way we identify questions is by type. And so there are 4 kinds of questions that we can ask. One kind of question is in the text. The answers are going to be found directly in the text, and those are right there and think and search questions. The second type of question is not in the text. You cannot find this answer directly in the text. They require some additional thinking. Those are author and me and on my own questions. We're going to start with the first type of QAR question, which is a right there question. The answer is found in one part of the text. You could point to it and say, it's right there, and there's no opinion involved. I like to call these ones easier texts. They're easier to find. All right, so I'm going to give an example of a passage, and in the passage, I want you to be looking at the questions over here on the right and thinking about where in the text it says these answers directly. The passage reads, at 6 in the morning, Bob runs with his dog. After school, Bob plays soccer. Before he goes to sleep, Bob walks for 20 minutes. When I'm looking at the 4 questions on the right, when does Bob run? I know that I can go directly back in the text and see very easily that he runs at 6 in the morning. It says it right there in the text. Which sport does Bob play? Well, he plays soccer. Again, it tells us right in the text that he plays soccer. For how long does Bob walk? At the end of the text, it says he walks for 20 minutes. And with whom does Bob run? Well, Bob runs with his dog. It tells us right here that he runs with his dog. The second type of question is a think and search question. The answer is found in several parts of the text. The reader needs to combine information to get an answer. Oftentimes, think and search questions are looking for more than one piece of information. The key word is, you'll often see the word and, or list, or find. These are just some common indicators that it may be a think and search question. Again, it is directly found in the text, but it looks for information throughout the text, not just in one spot. Same passage as before, but our questions look differently. The first question says, what are 2 athletic activities that Bob does? Well, one activity is that he runs with his dog, and the second one you could say is that he plays soccer. Again, since we're looking at 2 pieces of information and they're found in different places in the text, the first one is found in the first line, the next one is found in the third line or second line, that information is looking for more than one thing, which is why it's a think and search. What does Bob do to stay in shape? Well, I could say that Bob runs with his dog at 6 in the morning and he walks for 20 minutes. Those are both activities that would help him stay in shape. When does Bob exercise? Well, we know that he exercises at 6 in the morning and before he goes to bed, he walks for 20 minutes. Again, I find those throughout the text. Our third type of QAR question is an author and me. This is probably the most challenging question type, so it's really important that students focus on the story because author and me questions involve the story. The answer comes from combining information from the text with the knowledge of the reader. So these are 2 combinations. We have to infer, we have to practice inferencing skills in order to do an author and me question. There's not necessarily a right answer as long as the reader can justify it with evidence from the text. But there can be wrong answers if the student does not read the question appropriately. All right, same passage as before, and two examples of an author and me question. The first question says, do you think Bob is an athletic person? So even though there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer here, um, in this case, we can use evidence to support why we think Bob is athletic or not. But it never says in the text that Bob is athletic or Bob is not athletic. We have to infer that based on our own background. To me, Bob is an athletic person because his day revolves around activity. He runs with his dog in the morning, he plays a sport, and he walks at night. These are all indicators that he's an athletic person. So I used my background knowledge and the knowledge of, and what the text says to make that decision. How does Bob feel at the end of his day? It never tells me in the passage how Bob feels at the end of the day. I have to infer that Bob feels exhausted at the end of the day because he's tired from his running, his sport, and his 20 minutes of walking. The last type of QAR question, and the one that students find to be the easiest, is on my own. An on my own question is in the text is not found in the text. It relates to the ideas of the text, but you actually do not need the text to answer it. It's personalized, so every on my own question will have a different answer, and the reader must answer the question or opinion based on themselves and their own knowledge. Now, if you were to cover up the text over here in purple, you would be able to answer all four of these questions without the text at all. They can stand alone. The first question is it important to be active? What do you do to stay in shape? Do you like to run or do you prefer to walk? With whom do you exercise? All of these questions stand alone. They're on my own questions because you, the reader, can answer them without any text that it goes along with. They stand alone. All right, so what you can do today for extra credit is you can create some of your own questions, either based on the reading that we did today, that short little paragraph, or something that you're reading in class right now. You can write 10 QAR questions and tell me what type of question they are, and you can earn 1 PBIS point.